Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo, and it's always great to be on this show where we discuss all things books. Now, we've got a special guest for you today. Picture a man who is an experienced journalist and has impressive photography skills. You could call him a photographer, and is also a poet. Well, amongst many other things. He had extensive experience covering the insurgency war right at the front line. Well, I'm talking about no other person than Malam Jibrin Baba Ndace, the DG of Voice of Nigeria. For those of us in this industry, he's a highly respected gentleman, and he's got a lot to offer. And he's been gracious to put those things in 3 books. One, a book of poetry. One, a book that is a compilation, an impressive, I have to say, compilation of photographs. And the other one is written, of course, in prose format. Well, he will introduce those books to you and talk about his experiences. You are in for a time. Enjoy this.
Jibrin Baba Ndace is the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the Voice of Nigeria. With a career spanning close to 2 decades in both journalism and public relations, Ndace has carved a niche for himself as a public affairs commentator, media consultant, youth vanguard, and peace advocate. He was a defense correspondent under the administration of Tukur Buratai as the 20th Chief of Army Staff of Nigeria. Ndace joins Channel's Book Club to discuss his trilogy, Walking the War Front with Lieutenant General T.Y. Buratai, Duty Call under Buratai's command, and The Lonely Grave and other poems.
Malam Ndace, did I pronounce your name well?
Very well, and I'm surprised because largely you see a lot of people have challenged pronouncing the name because of the way it's written. It's like it's Englishized, if you like.
Oh yes, because there's no H.
Yeah, there's no H.
Yeah,
and it's pronounced with H.
Okay.
Ndace,
okay.
I'm surprised you, which means you have researched very well.
It's great to have you here. It's an honor. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, it's
I mean, many years of experience in journalism, culminating into this. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Well done, sir.
I also follow you regularly, and I must say you're doing a great job. You're making us proud as Nigerians, and you've taken a genre that is losing its relevance, but with what you're doing, a lot of publishers are able to come to share their story and also inspire others. So I'm really pleased to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you. And congrats on these books. I mean, you've done a lot in your life. You've accomplished a lot in your life, but I see these 3 books you've written as, this is like a legacy project.
Yes.
Because a book lasts forever. You've told not one story, important stories, and you've put them in these books, and they will be there for generations. That's fantastic. And I can only imagine, which I would like you to tell us, I can only imagine the effort and time it took to create these 3 books. I would like you to talk about that. How many years did it take you to put them together?
I think it took me 5 years to put the books together. And the story of the book is a story that you say largely about human condition, about how things happen to us. Sometimes we're not prepared. I had the opportunity as a journalist. I was on the defense beat for some years, and at some point had opportunity to be embedded, particularly when General Buratai was appointed. That set of service chiefs, the CDS, General Lalin Shekin, and other service chiefs, and General Buratai. But he came with something different, and renewed vigor to put the media,
embed the media,
and the military. And I was privileged. If you recall, he was the last to report. He was in N'Djamena as the first commander of the multinational joint task force. So when he returned, he took over at the headquarters. I was among the journalists there. And while I was there, I received an SMS from the spokesperson.
Yeah,
which I said, yes, Colonel SK Usman.
Yes.
You know, that please prepare to travel the chief of army staff to Maiduguri. It was fasting period, few days to Salah, of course. I was looking forward to Salah celebration because I think it was 28 fasting, and we're looking forward to either 29 or 30. And I had to send message to my wife.
At the time, nobody wanted to go to Maiduguri.
At the time, that was 2015. At the time, nobody wanted to go to Maiduguri. So I had two challenges. One of how I'm going to break the news to my wife, you know, and also having short time to prepare. But I just sent a message to my wife that I will be traveling. And she had to put a few things together for me and then meet me. If you know Abuja, the defense headquarters is located around Area 8. There's a Agura Hotel. I said she should just drive down and then just wait for me because I won't come to the house. I will have to, because it's immediate. And once after the handing and taking over, we just proceeded to the airport. And then the Nigerian Air Force aircraft, NAF, I think 930, was waiting for us in the tarmac. And Buratai, with many senior officers, only two of us were lucky to be chosen. Myself and a colleague with NTA.
I am Abdul Kadir.
Yeah, Mohamed Abdul Kadir. Yes, yeah. We're the only two embedded. And let me tell you one story again about this. When we got to Maiduguri, it was almost 6 p.m. You know, we left the airport almost close to the iftar time, close to Maghrib. And we just left the airport and drove out of the airport. It was already getting very dark. So I thought naturally that we'll be going to the headquarters. You know, but somehow I noticed that the convoy was actually leaving Maiduguri. So I was very curious and I asked Mohamed Al-Qadri, I said, where are we going? You know, he said, you know, these military people, just follow them. Let's not have too many questions now. And somehow, behold, I just discovered that we're going out of town and we're heading to Damaturu. And at that point, Damaturu was one of the worst roads. There have been many ambushes and all of that on the road. And somehow, we encountered our first ambush that night because we got to Damaturu almost 9 in the night. So we charged through, but had some obstacle. They didn't tell us, actually. It was later. They didn't want to. In fact, it was a month later that they disclosed to us that that night, it was only God that saved you. You know? Wow. You know, we got to Damaturu and it was, Salah was a day, the 29, and then Salah was the next day. And I think the terrorists had, Boko Haram terrorists had information that were in town. So they planted suicide bombers at the Eid ground. Wow. So we were welcomed in Damaturu by a bomb blast. We were preparing to go to Eid. And we just got information that there was a bomb blast. So we had to do the Eid prayer in government house. Then it was Governor Ibrahim Gedem was the governor. And then still the next day we had to go out with the chief of army staff, went with General Buratai, went the route to Biu, to Biu, and then to also his town. And then again, we also survived another ambush there. So,
Madam, let's back up a bit because this is exciting. Yeah. Let's back up a bit. Defense correspondence. I'm just trying to make sure we carry the viewer out there who may not understand what we mean by that. That means you were like the media attaché.
Yes.
To the military.
Yes.
For the insurgency or during
Yes,
insurgency.
the counter-insurgency.
Yes.
Before then, largely...
Okay. So you're in the team of the Chief of Army Staff.
Yes.
Who was heading to
Maiduguri.
To Maiduguri.
Yes,
then.
yes.
You were attached. Two of you were attached.
Two of us. I mean.
Yeah, basically to cover
yes.
the wartime experiences.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And let me give you the background. Before then, of course, I was a defense correspondent. I have been for some years. You go, come back. But that was like the first experience, apart from many of our colleagues who had that experience, senior colleagues in ECOMOG at that time, that was the first time that a chief of army staff from day one was very clear about that strategy of embedding journalists and letting them know firsthand.
So it was unique at that point.
It was unique at that point. What was also unique, there are some point that you find that even when they go with you either stay at the headquarters. But in this case, we move and we're in the trenches with them wherever you went from day one.
With the soldiers.
With the soldiers, that is why you find all of that in the pictures and all of that of the chief of army staff. And there's also a story I'm sure you connected with. I had just returned from Kosovo. And I bought a very beautiful sneakers and all of that, and the jeans, which I thought I didn't know that I was going. And the first thing I saw the chief of army staff with the senior officer entered into a very muddy water, and I was thinking about my Kosovo boot, and I talked to the Koneski Usman. I says, Haba, this is not fair. I say, my friend, you get into the trenches. Yeah. So, but the thing is that what touched me, I was jokingly concerned about my boot, but in the troops, Nigerian troops were literally on that ground. It had rain had fallen on that, and they were literally living there. Just in their trenches water, but they were literally.
Malam, let's. I really want people to get this. You were a media man. You're still a media man. And we see this on CNN. We see this on Al Jazeera, and all that. Even here at channels, we've got some correspondents who are. Yes. But I would like viewers to really experience this. So right there at the war front, the two of you were there.
Yes.
With the soldiers.
Yes, we were right there at the war front, in trenches, wherever the chief of army staff entered from day one, wherever General Buratai entered. Indeed, usually after the appointment, they are promoted to a 3-star. Yeah. But at this point, General Buratai was still a major general. Because it was just after his handing a takeover that he's moved to the notice. So everywhere he entered, from Maiduguri to Damaturu to Gambarungala, wherever he entered within those few months, we were there.
So while you were there, and then let's get to introduce this to viewers. While you were there, you were taking a lot of pictures. So this book is the first one, Walking the War Front. Could you introduce?
Walking the War Front with Lieutenant General Buratai. Pictorial memoir of an embedded journalist.
So what is this? What is this about?
This is entirely a photo book, and the story around is that photography is my hobby, and despite the danger of being embedded, I had my camera and also a phone. And usually, because of the danger, they don't put you all, an embedded defense correspondent, in the same vehicle. So I was embedded in one vehicle with a soldier armed to my right and to the left. So I had to plead with them, please, I want to be taking pictures. So we're living community, we're passing communities, passing checkpoints. I'll take picture of a cow, of children going to school, of some activity, of human condition, of how people live, in all of that, even cattle rearers.
How many pictures did you take?
Just uncountable.
Thousands
of pictures,
So what's the connection with the pictures and this book? Are all the pictures in this book pictures you took?
No. I got other pictures when I was building the story just to have a chronicle, a flow, and but the picture, if you look at each picture, is a section, the handing and taking over You know, first boot on the ground.
Fantastic.
Was the first time that General Buratai, you see the picture of General Buratai. This was in Damaturu, you know, in government in the night while he was signing the visitors book. Many of the senior officers, like then Major General Adioshun was GOC, became the first a 3-star general. Major General Leo Irabo became the chief of defense staff. Yes, and many others. Some are colonels, some are major general now. Then they were colonels. You know, so some painfully have paid the supreme price.
Is there any book like this in existence? I've never seen a book like this.
Well, I can't say, but I'm not sure.
And I see a lot of books.
Yes.
Were there pictures you took when there was action going on, real fighting going on?
Yes.
Are there pictures you took that are
Yes, there are pictures here. In fact,
in this book,
there's one that I took of course, the famous late Abu Ali. Because I met him severally. 2 pictures. One of the picture was usually what General Buratai did most of the time then was to lead the troops before they advance to take over any community.
Okay.
So in many of the advances, we see him boost the morale of the troop, and then we'll take pictures before. Sometimes there was one before our troops went to move to Zambisa, they were actually in position. All those pictures are here. They were in position. You can see their mood. You can see someone confronting danger but have made up his mind. But you can read that this person is really tense, even as a human being, because
he knows that it could be the last.
It could be the last, and in many cases, many of them didn't return.
They never made it.
Like Abu Ali and several others.
My goodness.
Yeah. So
and General Buratai should be commended for getting you embedding the media.
Yes.
Okay, that's the picture. Is that the picture?
Yeah, no, this one is a colleague. This is Gamborungala.
397.
Yes, it's a colleague. So a defense correspondent, a colleague here.
Okay. So this war has, in many ways, decimated, Nigeria. And that's probably an understatement.
Yeah, it's unimaginable, and that is why it's important that we, like you said, we know the story. Beyond the headline. We need to know what the human condition, the sacrifice of our troops, and what people needed to understand, to know the story, to know the danger, and what the people in this community went through.
The other book, Duty Call, under Buratai's command, is a very fascinating book. This is more like a travelogue.
Yes.
Like a journal.
Yes, it was like a travelogue.
Yeah, you just sort of like wrote some of your experiences.
Yes.
But I don't know whether you intended it to be, because on the other hand, the book is also, it's like a book of history too.
Yes, yes. Once you start a research, it takes a life of its own. When I left the beat, I was appointed Chief Press Secretary to Niger State Governor. In fact, I was in Maiduguri when the appointment came. So I left in 2015 November. So I had time to reflect on all these materials and my experience reading other defense correspondents, some of their work in my travels and all of that. I thought that I needed to do something about this. The entire project was actually one story. One team.
Oh, the three books.
Yes, I intended it actually to be one book, a collection of poems,
photos, and then.
Yes, but when I started the project, it took a life of its own, and then the book.
You now split them into three.
Yeah, split them into three, and then this one, I now intended that we should be able to learn our history, know where we are coming from as a country, know the trajectory of the military, and even the issue of Boko Haram. That's why you see the early chapters
talk about the history of. I like this chapter where you wrote about 2014 when the Bring Back Our Girls campaign started.
Yes.
That part I was like, okay, so this is how the story started.
Yes.
The hashtag.
Yeah, the hashtag.
Yeah, and you mentioned individuals who
the role they play, locally and internationally,
and all that. And you took us down memory lane. How the former the government of Goodluck Jonathan, how they were a bit skeptical about
because of the politics of the moment.
Yes.
The politics of the moment didn't allow the political masters to be very firm and fast and decisive
and
quick and taking decisions. And whatever the military does all over the world, it is because there is what you call civilian control of the military. It is the decision of the political masters that always fire up the military. So that gap led to some of the challenges that we had at that point.
That time. That chapter on Chibok girls was really, really interesting. I found it very, very interesting, the story. At times, a lot of things happen in Nigeria back to back. I mean, all these things hit us every day that we almost forget very quickly recent events. Yeah, because there's another one.
Another one.
Right now, I'm thinking of dollar to naira now. I can't remember
what happened in last year.
Yes, but reading your book was like brought back a lot of these things. I said, oh wow, and you went into the story of how Boko Haram started. You went. Even the story of Nigeria, you went back to the 1960s, the coup, the civil war, and everything, and then you now, down to when you went with the chief of army staff to Maiduguri.
I look at the politics of appointment. I look at President Buhari. President Buhari is chapter that I said 7-time return.
What was that? What's the title now?
The return of the 7-time loser. And then something interesting about my uncle and our family name.
And the NDA.
Yeah, and the NDA in the past, if you graduate from NDA until you started degree, the certificate you have is NDACE, Nigerian Defense Academy Certificate of Education. And my uncle, when he joined the academy, his surname is Ndace. Ndace. So he told me the story that the senior cadet will say, hey, you. So it's your name that is giving us wahala in the academy. So they will tell him to put his head, to stand on his head, and all of that, So even up till he left the military, they always NDACE instead of just calling Ndace, NDACE.
I don't know. You managed to put some humor somewhere in there, somewhere. Despite it being a very heavy topic.
Yes, I talk about the night in Gamborungala, and one of our colleagues from Maiduguri who swore he would never follow the because we went to Maiduguri, it was too dangerous even to venture out, and they didn't tell us. And the generals just decided to pass the night, General Buratai, and we had over 20 generals that day. If anything had happened, it would have been a disaster for the Nigerian forces and by extension Nigeria, but that was what happened.
Madam, we're out of time. The last book, The Lonely Grave and Other Poems, I was wondering, why did you now get into poetry and all of this that we're talking about now? But it's a fantastic 141 pages of poetry, all written by, these are all your...
Yes. While I was taking pictures, I was also inspired to also write poems at some point. And the title was actually inspired by a real grave in Gamborungala. The officer who was taking around, as we were moving, just said, be careful, somebody is there. And I looked back, I didn't see anybody, but I saw a small mound which looked like grave, and I said, it's a fresh grave. Perhaps they are not very sure whether it's
that's how you got the title.
And I imagine that it's a deserted community. Nobody. So the grave is doubly disadvantaged, dead in a very terrible circumstance, but also unfortunate to be buried alone. And maybe buried anyhow, maybe not by any religious tradition, not among the people, So
hence your title.
Yes, lonely.
The Lonely Grave.
Yes.
You're a man of many parts.
Yeah.
Media veteran, journalist, photographer, writer, poet.
Yes. And now Director General Voice of Nigeria.
Now DG of VON. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. It's an honor to host
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you. Well done on this incredible project. Well done. And we need more of you to write more books like this so that we can keep and preserve and tell our own stories.
I must reveal to you, I'm already working on some other. In fact, I had to stop because of my appointment as Director General, because I intend to continue to use the opportunity to tell the story of our armed forces.
Please, when those ones are ready,
sure.
You're back here.
Yes, I'm back here.
Thank you for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I hope you had a good time watching that. Wow. So much coming from Malam Jibrin Baba Ndace. So much more to come from him. Hopefully, we'll be exploring one or two of those books some more on this show. Well, this is where we have to draw curtains on the episode today. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Don't forget to send us all your feedback, comments, questions, everything. Just send it to us through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.